Hello, hello, and welcome to the From Nature to Nurture podcast. I am your host, Danielle, and I am here today with our 16th episode. If you are listening to this on the day that it comes out, it is January 1st, 2026, so Happy New Year! In today's episode, we are talking a little bit more about cyclical rhythms with herbal support woven in. So, as we all know, there is this big cultural pressure that today is the day that we jump in and get things done and start fresh. But I want to offer a little gentle reframe where we look at things a little bit more based in nature, work a little bit more seasonally and cyclically, and how we can decide at any time to want to do something different in our lives and change something, but the season that we're in can change what kind of energy that brings. So this episode is not a productivity push. It's not going to be a list of resolutions or a 5-step plan to change your life. It's a gentle invitation for you to learn how to tend to the future you, not by striving, but by rooting down and focusing on the current energy cycles. So, to kind of set this up, I'm going to share a little bit of personal context where what I am doing today and really through the rest of this winter season, because we are deep into winter right now, is I am still in that marinating phase, right? So, I don't do a New Year's resolution. I do pick a word for the year, a theme for the year, but I'm not really putting too much into action during the winter. Now, that is because the winter is not a big productivity time. We can take that sign from nature, right? Right now, we don't have things blooming or sprouting. The seeds are sitting down in the soil and they're sleeping, they're resting, they're slowly gestating and growing. And we're not seeing any of that outward production, right? The leaves and the flowers. So I like to take my cues from nature, as you've probably heard me say 100 times by now. But this is the time when I am working on my inner worlds. I am working through my shadow, doing shadow work. I am working through why I want what I want, why I want to leave what I want to leave, and to do more of that internal work before any of the physical action manifests. So today, on the first of the year, I'm not really doing anything too differently. I'm going to the gym, not because that's a New Year's resolution, but because that's part of my regular routine. I am sipping teas, I am reading, I am painting, I'm playing with my dogs. And I'm not trying to push myself to be productive. Now, while I try to live within the context of the nature cycles, I also try to work within the context of my own inner cycles, right? So, working with my natural energy flow as a woman and, during my bleed cycle of like different types of energy hits during different times. And so, while I may have days that feel more go-getter kind of energy, I'm still softening into that winter depth. So, especially here in the northern hemisphere where we are deep, deep, deep into winter by now, um, this is this can feel really intense if we try to do all this changing in the middle of winter, especially if you're coming out of a hard, complex year. So I want to offer some ways where we can still work towards our goals and still take care of ourselves in new and healthy ways, but without all of this pressure that the new year tends to give us. So let's look at tending to ourselves like we are tending to a garden, right? So we have different layers here. We have the seeds that we're planting, we have the fertilizer, we have the nutrients, we have the sun, we have the water. And so we can look at ourselves in this context of a garden. So you want to plant a new little seed, which would be like a new habit or something, and we want to make sure we care for it. We tend to it softly, gently, right? You don't go out to your garden and start yelling at your plants, demanding that they bloom when you want to and demand that they're always in 100% peak condition. They can't have any lagging, they can't have any off days. We are much more gentle with things outside of ourselves. This also kind of comes back to the idea of like positive self-talk versus negative self-talk. There's a lot of times where we say things to ourselves that we would never say to somebody else. And so part of this tending to your future self is also looking at yourself as something separate than yourself, which I know sounds a little wonky, but stay with me. Um, because it's easier. A lot of times it's easier for us to take care of others and take care of things outside of ourselves because kind of as a society, we're told to put ourselves on the back burner. Oh, taking care of yourself is selfish. And so we're taught to always give and give and give. And so you can kind of use that to your advantage where you take yourself out of your head as a separate being and be like, okay, how would I tend to this person? What do they need? How can I help them? So going back to that garden mentality, we have our seed, which is, like the thing that we want to change, right? The little thing that we're planting. And so how can we tend to that? So some things that I personally am working on into this year is that I want to be more steady. That is my word for the year, is steady, because I used this last year to build up some really good routines and habits. And there wasn't much that I wanted to change this next year, except that I want to be able to create some longevity with those routines and habits because I'm really bad, honestly, at sticking with things long term. I'll be really good for a few weeks to a few months and then I'll drop off. So this whole year is just steady longevity, bringing in that same kind of energy that I had this last year. So that's my little seed that I'm planting. Now, how I would tend to that is that I am looking at this as like, I'm not giving myself a bigger to-do list. I'm looking at this as kind of like I said, this is someone that I'm in a relationship with. This is someone that I love and care for. And so, what do they need right now? How can I take care of them? So that may look like going to bed earlier, making some tea, um, saying no without over explaining or overburdening myself, and creating a creative rhythm, not a productivity metric. So that could be like giving myself extra grace when I'm on my period. Or if I am sick or have an injury, I'm not trying to bully myself into keeping up this habit and routine that I've built because I don't want it to be something that I have to do. I want it to be something that I want to do. And so by giving myself some more grace and softness around it and creating more like rituals than like strict regimens, kind of help reframe that in my mind so that I go into each activity a little more calm and centered, right? I'm not dreading going to clean up the kitchen each night. I am excited to kind of tuck my house in for the night. So kind of just different gentle reframes there. So this is all about taking care of your future self and letting this year not be about doing more, but by deepening what's already there. We all already have this inherent desire to want to take care of ourselves, even if it's been squashed down a little bit by societal norms. But we have that. We have the capacity to make these changes. And a lot of this, like, go get them, jump right in, no days off energy makes it more difficult. It makes it to where you don't want to do it because no one wants to be told they have to do something all the time, right? That's kind of our natural human inclination, is to kind of push the brakes when we're told we have to do something. So let's turn these into rituals instead of resolutions. So, as we are kind of going into this new year with this new outlook of no longer pushing productivity but creating rituals to nourish ourselves, these these ways of going about our daily routine can be really supportive to our nervous system and help with our inner connection and help us create sustainable change, right? So, for example, um I'm going to use this dumb example, but this year I really, really, really wanted to get better at doing the dishes. I know that sounds really lame, but dishes have been really hard for me to want to do for some reason. And so some things that I did was I made it seem more special. I did it in lower lighting. enough lighting to still be able to see if the dishes are clean, but instead of using like the big overhead light, I used like a warm, smaller light. Sometimes I would light a candle even. I would either put on like a cozy show or some music. And I got in this really nice habit of doing all of my dishes right before bed. And that way, when I wake up, I have a clean kitchen. One way that I have reframed this in my mind is that I am tucking my house in for the night. So, kind of like how in the morning when you wake up and you want to like open all the blinds and the windows and shake out the bed and I open the doors, take the dogs out and stuff. So in the morning I'm waking the house up, and then now in the evening I have this practice of doing whatever dishes are left, wiping down the counters, picking up a couple things, and tucking my house into bed. I say thank you to it, like, thank you for protecting us today. Thank you for keeping us warm today. And that has kind of helped create a ritual to get excited about rather than, oh, I gotta go do the dishes. So these small little reframes, like I said, really help support us because that feels so much better to my nervous system than forcing myself to trudge over to the kitchen after I've just been all cozy reading a book and do these dishes, right? I'm still keeping that same cozy energy. I'm making it more exciting for me. And it doesn't disrupt my nervous system. Thus, it helps me also be able to sleep better. So it's a really interesting habit stacking way, I guess. But some other different ways that you can kind of work with the same kind of energy is by finding these rhythms for yourself. So whether that is a weekly check-in with a journal and a tea, to check in to see, how you're feeling, what kind of rhythms you've created for yourself, if they're working, if they're not. Walking outside without a destination, just being with the season, obviously probably not barefoot, but no phone, no music, not really trying to like think through anything, just focusing on what is happening right now. Looking at the bird up in the maple, looking at the leaves rustling on the evergreen, like just really focusing on what's happening now to get yourself calm and a little bit more into a flow state. Or maybe you want to spark your creativity. So, something you could do is working on one new herbal recipe a week, whether that's a tea blend or an oxymel, or even like incorporating herbs into your full dishes. So, like just working with herbs in the kitchen more. Different things like that to kind of help where you're serving your future self, you're taking care of your future self, but you're finding ways to make it more enjoyable now, because now is when you'll be able to build those long lasting results. I want to invite you to choose one new little ritual or rhythm to shift in January to support your connection, not a correction for you to make, but something to help you to connect more to yourself. So that could be one of the three things I just listed or something else, but even just giving it a little container of like just January, I'm going to try this helps instead of being like, this is a life altering change that I'm going to do forever. That can feel really big and unattainable. So find one little shift that you can make in January. Now, when we're talking about herbs specifically, because of course I'm an herbalist and we're going to talk about herbs, I want to talk about a few different herbs that can help during this time. So, these herbs can help us to open our awareness to what we truly want and help us to be able to create a more specialized plan and find the layers underneath of what actually needs to change for us to be able to get our goal. And these plants can also help us to remain connected to the plant world and remember the earth cycles. And then, of course, help us to soften into this new rhythm that we want to create. So, the first thing I want to talk about is rosemary. Rosemary is a wonderful plant. So one that we're very commonly working with like in the kitchen, but outside of the kitchen even, rosemary still has these wonderful benefits. So rosemary is known for clarity, memory, and motivation. So since we are in this depths of winter, we normally have the lower sluggish energy. And if you want to be changing things and you want some extra support around that, Rosemary can be a wonderful ally to help give you some clarity with exactly what needs to change. And sometimes you think you have this one goal that you need to change, but you need to change something else to be able to work your way up to that. So rosemary can kind of help you get down into the nitty-gritty of what exactly is the root problem there, and to help give you some motivation, also help with memory to be able to remember to do these new things, right? So remember for me to go clean the kitchen each night and different things like that. Rosemary can be worked with in your food like normal, but you can also add it to teas, or you can make an oil for it to and smell it or put it on your skin. Wonderful. Or rosemary is also known for its hair and scalp benefits. So you could also make a hair rinse and use that as a ritual, or you can burn it. Rosemary is wonderful burned as an incense. And then we have one of my favorites that you all know about is Tulsi. If you want more information on Tulsi, there's 2 past episodes all about Tulsi. But in terms of this New Year energy, Tulsi is wonderful for upliftment, devotion, and energetic resilience. So Tulsi is a plant that I work with daily for bringing more sacredness to my daily life. Sometimes we can get really caught up in the mundane of, oh, I have to go get gas, I have to get groceries, oh, the floor needs to be mopped again, like all these kind of chores. But there is a beauty in that as well that we often miss. So Tulsi really helps me to see the beauty in everything and to bring more sacred stillness and devotion to my day where I am tending to myself like I am a goddess that Tulsi is, and to feel that upliftment of energy to be able to help spur me along throughout the day. And Tulsi has this beautiful balance of calming and energizing. I talked about that in both my other Tulsi podcasts, but Tulsi is a can be worked with like in the morning or in the evening too. It's very versatile. So it's a plant that you can add into like your teas, or you can burn it as well. Um, I also love Tulsi in oxymels or tincture form, but Tulsi is a wonderful addition to give you some more presence to your day. And that's something that a lot of us want more of. This whole slow living movement has grown, which is beautiful and something that I fully support. And Tulsi is a wonderful plant to help embody that as well. Then moving right along, we have Gotu Kola. Gotu Kola is wonderful for brain health, cognitive enhancement. So giving us some mental clarity, can helping with longevity and a little bit of energy support in terms of brain power energy support. And then on the spiritual side, we have a little bit of a spiritual elevation where it's opening us up a little bit more to be aware of any subtle messages that are coming through, looking for patterns, seeing, different signs pop up here and there. So Gotu Kola to me is very similar to rosemary in terms of the mental clarity, and a little bit of like the boost that you have in the brain there. So Gotu Kola is one that I like to work with in the morning specifically to help get my brain going, because I'm a morning person and I prefer to get like all of my work done in the morning and then have the afternoon and evening to just like play and have fun. So I will work with Gotu Kola in the morning to wake up my brain, open me up, and be able to get going on things. So, in terms of this new year energy, that can be wonderful when you're trying to plan like what you want to shift this new year and what you want to work on, and give you a little bit of gentle support there to be able to help you remember things and help you be able to fully think through these decisions instead of just running off. Um, Gotu kola is another wonderful one for teas or tinctures. Traditionally, there is a practice of infusing it into coconut milk, like overheat. So that's also another way that you can try working with this plant. Then we have rose. Oh, rose. Everyone can use some rose energy. So, rose is all about heart softening, emotional openness, and the beauty that we have in grief, which is not a topic that we talk about a lot. But New Year can also be really sad. um, there is often this focus and emphasis on, oh, the new year, bright and shining, anything can change. But there is a lot of grief in that. We are deep in winter, so we have the seasonal depression element. We also have, we're just out of the holidays, and maybe there are people missing from your holiday gatherings this year. But then we also have this like grief and sadness around maybe not meeting our goals for this last year, not feeling like we can attain our goals that we want. And so rose is just a wonderful softening plant, wonderful for holding us and like that warm hug to help us lean on and give us some comfort and support. So rose is one that I like to work with, especially this time of year, to help remind me of that gentleness because I'm human and I can get caught up in the new year, new you rush, but rose will kind of remind us to be soft and gentle and slow and to not go running off without a plan. I also love to take the lesson from Rose about boundaries. So often we talk about the softness and the petals and the flowers, but we forget about the thorns. And something that I think is really special about Rose is that you can be gentle with Rose and not get pricked, or you can be rough with Rose and get pricked. And I guess this is similar to nettle, but it's a reminder of holding our boundaries, but we don't have to be really angry and loud about it. We can be quiet and still and hold our boundaries. And that can be against others, but often it's easy for us to cross our own boundaries, especially as we're talking about with this whole theme of, maybe you have this boundary of I want to have a slow, thoughtful, rooted winter, but you get kind of caught up in the excitement of the new year and wanting to change and do all these things, and you're seeing everyone else making all this progress, and so you feel like you need to push forward. And so just remembering the rose thorns mixed with the rose petals helps us to remember to be soft but firm in our own boundaries and to be gentle with ourselves and not push too hard or we'll get hurt. Rose is a wonderful plant to work with in so many ways. One of my favorite ways is in a bath, or a foot soak, but you can also make a tea or an elixir, or you can burn it. You can make rose water for your skin and do a hydrosol or a rose water spray. So there's lots of different ways to incorporate rose, and I definitely think everyone can use some rose. Then we have, of course, mugwort. So, mugwort is all about intuition, dream work, and liminal support, which we are definitely in a liminal space right now. We are just post holidays, still deep in the winter, but there is this weird time where the holidays is very rushed, and then we have this dead time until like March. So, mugwort is a wonderful plant to be able to support us in that transition and to help us be able to work through some of the things that we may have been kind of burying deep inside us, like different feelings, negative self talk, hopes and dreams that we've squashed down because we didn't think they were possible. And mugwort can help us kind of crack back open and go deep inside ourselves to be able to work through those wounds and to bring those dreams into fruition. One thing that is very important about mugwort is that it has a wonderful long-standing history of ritual use in so many different ways, like making dream pillows. So I love to look at different ways to work with plants instead of just always ingesting them or putting them on our skin. So mugwort's a fun one for that, where you make you can either sew a little pillow or you can put it into like a little satchel, or sachet. I don't remember what they're called, but you know what I mean, the little tiny bags with the drawstrings. And you put mugwort in those and you put them underneath your pillows to kind of help support your dream worlds. But then of course you can work with it in a more internal sense, like a tea or a tincture. Burning it for smoke is really common as well as another way to work with it. But mugwort is a wonderful plant for those inner realms. So those are a few of my favorite herbs that I am working with right now. What I love about them is that herbs don't just support who you are, they walk with you to who you are becoming. They help show you a different way of being. They bring you messages of other lives and how we can integrate into nature like we're supposed to. So, as we are moving into 2026, what are you saying yes to in 2026 that your present self can begin tending to today? How can you make these small rhythm shifts? What rituals do you want to incorporate into your life? And I hope that you can find a way to make this transition easeful and sustainable, and that you feel that you are actually making an impact and truly tending to yourself. So, here's to a new year of rooted choices, herbal rituals, and tending to future you. I'm glad that you're here. If you would like to find out more about my upcoming classes and offerings, you can find me at rootandwandercollective.com. I'll see you along the plant path.